The morning sun was warm on Marcus Johnson's face as he stood at the edge of his farm. The land went on for miles, green and rich. At 47 years old, Marcus had turned his small family farm into something big, something his father could never have dreamed of. Marcus walked through the rows of corn, touching the tall plants as he went. Each step filled him with pride. 20 years ago, he had only 50 acres, a small house with a leaky roof, and a dream. Now, Johnson Family Farms covered over 2,000 acres across 3 counties. His organic vegetables went to stores and restaurants all over the country. "Morning, boss," called Sam, the farm manager, as he drove up in a dirty pickup truck. "Looks like another hot one today." Marcus nodded with a smile. "Going to be a good season, Sam. The new irrigation system is working better than I hoped." Sam hopped out of the truck and handed Marcus a folder. Latest numbers from the East Field, up 15% from last year. This was the kind of news that made all the hard work worth it. Marcus had built his success one day at a time, 1 acre at a time. When banks wouldn't give him loans, he found other ways. When big companies tried to push him out, he pushed back harder. Marcus Johnson was not a man who gave up easily. Back at the main house, Marcus sat at his kitchen table looking at maps spread out before him. His farms were growing, but they were also spread far apart. The drive from his main farm to the newest one took almost 6 hours. This was becoming a problem. "You need to be there more," his daughter Lisa said as she poured him coffee. At 25, she had her father's business sense and her mother's straight talk. "You can't run 3 big farms from just one place." "I know," Marcus said, rubbing his tired eyes. "But that's a 12-hour round trip. I'm losing a whole day just to check on things." Lisa sat across from him. "That's why we talked about getting a small plane, remember? You could be at any farm in under an hour." Marcus nodded slowly. The idea had been on his mind for months. Not just any plane, but a small jet. With his business growing so fast, it made perfect sense. The numbers added up. With a jet, he could visit all 3 farms in one day and still be home for dinner. "I've been saving for years," Marcus said, "and with the new contracts we just signed, we can afford it now." "Then what are you waiting for?" Lisa asked. Marcus didn't say what was really on his mind. As a black farmer in a mostly white industry, he had faced doubt and disrespect all his life. Even now, with all his success, he still saw the surprise on people's faces when they learned he owned the farm, not just worked there. But Marcus had never let fear stop him before. He picked up his phone and made a call to an aircraft dealer in the city. "Good morning. This is Marcus Johnson of Johnson Family Farms. I'd like to make an appointment to look at your small jets for sale." There was a pause on the line. "Yes, I'm serious. I'm looking in the $5 to $7 million range." After he hung up, Lisa gave him a proud smile. "It's about time, Dad." Marcus nodded and looked out the window at his land. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll see how it goes." He didn't know it yet, but that appointment would change his life in ways he never expected. The success he had built was about to be tested in a very public way. And Marcus Johnson was about to make a stand that would do more than just buy him a jet. The next morning was bright and clear. Perfect flying weather. Marcus put on his best clothes, a crisp blue button-down shirt, clean dark jeans, and his newest boots. He wanted to look professional but comfortable. After all, he was about to spend millions of dollars. "You ready for this?" Lisa asked as she handed him his leather folder with all the bank papers. She had insisted on coming along. "Been ready for 20 years, Marcus said with a smile. But inside, he felt a small knot of worry. He had faced this feeling many times before. The moment before walking into a room where he knew he might not be welcome. The drive to Elite Aviation took almost 2 hours. The building was all glass and steel, with model airplanes hanging from the ceiling and pictures of happy rich people standing next to their new jets on the walls. As they walked through the front doors, Marcus noticed how the busy room seemed to pause. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. He had felt this before, but he kept his face calm and walked straight to the front desk. "Good morning," he said to the young woman behind the counter. "I'm Marcus Johnson. I have an appointment with Mr. Peterson at 10 a.m. The woman looked at her computer screen, then back at Marcus with doubt in her eyes. "Johnson, for the jet consultation." "That's right," Marcus said firmly. "And you're the buyer?" she asked slowly. Lisa stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" "No, no," the woman said quickly. "Please have a seat. I'll let Mr. Peterson know you're here." Marcus and Lisa sat in the waiting area. They could hear whispers and see people looking their way. 10 minutes passed, then 20. "They're making us wait on purpose," Lisa said under her breath. "Maybe," Marcus replied. "Or maybe they're just busy." After 30 minutes, a tall man in an expensive suit finally approached them. He did not smile or offer his hand. "Mr. Johnson, I'm David Peterson. I understand you're interested in our aircraft." Marcus stood and offered his hand. "Yes, we spoke on the phone yesterday." Peterson shook his hand quickly, then looked at his clipboard. "Right. You mentioned you were interested in our jets. I should tell you that our smallest model starts at $4.5 million. The way he said it made it clear he didn't think Marcus could afford it. "Actually," Marcus said calmly, "I'm interested in the Citation CG4. I believe that's closer to $6 million. Peterson's eyebrows went up. "That's correct. May I ask what line of business you're in, Mr. Johnson?" "I own Johnson Family Farms. We're one of the largest organic produce suppliers in 3 states. Peterson nodded slowly, but his eyes showed he didn't believe it. "I see. And how are you planning to finance this purchase?" Before Marcus could answer, another man walked up. He was older, with gray hair and a name tag that read Thomas Wright, General Manager. "Is there a problem here, David?" the manager asked, looking back and forth between them. "No problem," Peterson said. "Mr. Johnson here is interested in the Citation CG4. Wright looked Marcus up and down, taking in his clothes, his face, everything about him. Then he smiled a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, that's quite an aircraft. Perhaps we should start with something more entry level. Maybe a tour of our pre-owned section." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. This was happening again. The same old story. They saw his skin color and decided what he could or couldn't afford. Lisa started to say something, but Marcus touched her arm gently. He had been here before. He knew what to do. "Actually," Marcus said, opening his leather folder, "I've already been approved for financing. The full amount." He pulled out papers from the bank and handed them to Wright. "And I'm ready to make a decision today, if I find what I'm looking for." The look on Wright's face changed as he scanned the documents. Surprise, confusion, and something else. The slow realization that he had made a big mistake. The room went quiet. Wright stared at the bank papers in his hands. The approval was for $7 million, more than enough for the jet Marcus wanted to buy. Peterson, the salesman, looked over Wright's shoulder at the papers, his eyes growing wide. "Well," Wright said finally, clearing his throat, "these seem to be in order. David, why don't you show Mr. Johnson the Citation CG4? "Of course," Peterson said, his tone suddenly warm and friendly. "Right this way, Mr. Johnson." As they walked through the showroom, Marcus could feel the eyes of everyone on him. Word had spread fast. The man they had kept waiting, the man they thought couldn't possibly afford their jets, was about to make one of their biggest sales of the month. "Dad," Lisa whispered, "we can go somewhere else. You don't have to give them your business." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Let's just see the jet first." The Citation CG4 was beautiful, clean white with blue stripes. It sat in the hangar like a bird ready to fly. It could seat 8 people and fly almost 2,000 miles without stopping. Perfect for his needs. This model has all the latest technology, Peterson explained, now acting like the perfect salesman. Touchscreen controls, advanced navigation systems, top-of-the-line safety features. They walked around the jet, looking at every detail. Marcus asked smart questions about fuel use, maintenance costs, and expected lifespan. With each question, Peterson's respect seemed to grow a little more. "You've done your research," he said. "I do my research on all my business investments," Marcus replied. "That's how I built my company from nothing." Just then, a young man in a pilot's uniform walked up. "Excuse me," he said to Peterson. "I need to go over the pre-flight checks with the Williams family. They're taking delivery today." Peterson nodded. "Of course. Mr. Johnson, this is Mike Taylor, one of our best pilots. Mike, this is Mr. Johnson. He's interested in the CJ-4. Mike turned to Marcus with a genuine smile and offered his hand. "Nice to meet you, sir. She's a beautiful aircraft. I've logged over 500 hours on this model." Marcus shook his hand. "Good to meet you, Mike. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions about how she handles?" "Not at all," Mike said. "I'd be happy to tell you anything you want to know." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus and Mike talked about the jet. Mike was honest, pointing out both the good things and the few small problems the model had. He didn't talk down to Marcus or assume he wouldn't understand. He treated him with respect. Lisa watched her father come alive during this conversation. This was how it should have been from the start. "Do you fly for Elite Aviation full-time?" Marcus asked. "Yes, sir. I do delivery flights and training for new owners. I also do some charter flights when needed." Marcus nodded, thinking, "And if I bought this jet, would you be available to fly it sometimes?" "I'd need a pilot about 3 days a week." Mike looked surprised but pleased. "I'd have to check with my boss, but I'd certainly be interested." Peterson stepped in quickly. "We can discuss pilot arrangements as part of the sale. Speaking of which, would you like to see the interior now, Mr. Johnson?" As they climbed the steps into the jet, Wright appeared at the hangar entrance with another man. This new man wore an expensive suit and had the confident look of someone in charge. "That's the owner of Elite Aviation," Mike whispered to Marcus. "Mr. Hoffman. He almost never comes down to the showroom." Marcus nodded, understanding what was happening. Now that they knew he could really buy the jet, everyone was suddenly very interested. The owner himself was coming to smooth things over. What they didn't know was that Marcus Johnson wasn't just going to buy a jet today. He was going to teach them all a lesson they wouldn't forget. The inside of the jet was beautiful. Soft leather seats, polished wood tables, and carpet so thick Marcus's boots sank into it. It was nicer than any first-class airplane seat he had ever seen. "What do you think?" Peterson asked eagerly. His voice had changed completely from earlier. Now he sounded like he was talking to his best friend. "It's very nice," Marcus said simply. He sat in one of the seats, testing how it felt. Lisa walked to the back of the jet and looked at everything with careful eyes. Marcus knew she was thinking the same thing he was. These people had judged them unfairly, and now they were acting fake. The door at the front of the jet opened, and Mr. Hoffman, the owner, stepped in with a big smile. "Mr. Johnson, I'm Robert Hoffman, owner of Elite Aviation. I wanted to personally welcome you." He held out his hand. "I understand you're interested in our Citation CG-4. Marcus shook his hand but didn't smile back. "Yes, it seems to fit my needs." "Wonderful. Is there anything I can tell you about it? Any questions?" "I have a question," Lisa said, walking back from the rear of the jet. "Why did your staff make us wait for 30 minutes when we had an appointment? And why did they try to show us cheaper jets when we clearly stated what we wanted to see?" Hoffman's smile froze on his face. He looked at Peterson, who suddenly seemed very interested in the floor. I'm not aware of any issues with your visit today," Hoffman said carefully. "But if there were any misunderstandings, I sincerely apologize." "Misunderstandings?" Marcus repeated the word slowly. Is that what you call it when your staff sees a black man walk in and decides he can't possibly afford your products? The jet was quiet. No one knew what to say. Mr. Johnson, Hoffman finally spoke, I assure you that Elite Aviation values all our customers equally. If you felt unwelcome in any way, that is absolutely not what we stand for. Marcus looked him straight in the eyes. Mr. Hoffman, I've built my business by being direct and honest. So let me be direct with you. When we arrived, your staff didn't believe I was a serious buyer. They kept us waiting, talked down to us, and tried to show us cheaper options. Only when I showed proof that I could afford this jet did anything change. Hoffman's face turned red. I don't know what to say. This is completely unacceptable. Yes, it is, Marcus agreed. And it happens more often than you think. Mike, the pilot who had been quiet during this conversation, stepped forward. If I may say something, sir, Mr. Johnson is right. I've seen it happen before, though no one talks about it. Hoffman looked shocked that his own employee would speak up. Marcus stood up from the comfortable seat. Mr. Hoffman, I came here today prepared to spend $6 million on this jet. I still like the jet. It's exactly what I need for my business, but I need to think about whether I want to do business with your company. Please, Hoffman said quickly, don't make your decision now. Let me make this right. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll tell you what. I'm going to look at jets at Continental Aviation tomorrow. They're your biggest competitor, I believe. After that, I'll make my decision. Hoffman looked worried. Of course. That's fair. But please, let me offer you a special price on the CJ-4. And we can throw in the first year of maintenance for free. Lisa almost laughed. Now they were offering deals. We'll be in touch, Marcus said firmly, moving toward the door. Thank you for your time today. As they walked out of the hangar, Lisa held her father's arm. You were amazing in there, Dad. Marcus smiled a little. I just stood up for myself, like I've been doing all my life. What they didn't know was that someone had been recording part of their conversation on a phone. By tomorrow, the whole world would know what happened at Elite Aviation that day. The next morning, Marcus woke up to his phone buzzing nonstop. He had 20 missed calls and more text messages than he could count. Half asleep, he picked up his phone and saw a message from Sam, his farm manager. Boss, you're all over the internet. Marcus sat up quickly. What was going on? He opened his social media and was shocked. A video was spreading fast. It showed part of his conversation with Hoffman in the jet. Someone, probably another customer or worker, had recorded it without him knowing. The video showed Marcus calmly explaining how he had been treated unfairly and Hoffman's red-faced response. The video had millions of views already. People were sharing it with comments like, "Watch how this black farmer stood up to racism, and this is what happens every day." His phone rang again. It was Lisa. "Dad, have you seen it?" she asked as soon as he answered. "I'm looking at it now," Marcus said, still trying to understand what this meant. "Who recorded this?" "I don't know, but it's everywhere. News stations are calling me asking for interviews with you." Marcus rubbed his eyes. This was not what he wanted. He had just wanted to buy a jet for his business, not become the center of a viral story. "There's more," Lisa continued. "Mike Taylor, that pilot we met. He called me this morning. He quit his job at Elite Aviation after what happened. And he's not the only one. 2 other employees quit too." Before Marcus could respond, his phone beeped with another call. It was a number he didn't recognize. "I have to go, Lisa. Someone else is calling." The new caller introduced himself as Carlos Diaz, owner of Continental Aviation, the competitor Marcus had mentioned to Hoffman. "Mr. Johnson," Carlos said warmly, "I saw the video of what happened at Elite. I want you to know that at Continental Aviation, we treat all our customers with respect, no matter who they are. I would be honored if you would visit us today instead of tomorrow. I'll show you our citation jets myself." Marcus thought for a moment. Thank you, Mr. Dias. I appreciate that. But with all this attention right now, I think I need a day to let things calm down. Of course, I understand, Carlos replied. Just know that we're ready whenever you are. After hanging up, Marcus went downstairs to find his kitchen full of people. Lisa was there with Sam and 3 other farm workers, all looking at phones and talking excitedly. Boss, Sam said when he saw Marcus, you're famous. Marcus shook his head. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to buy a jet. Lisa's phone rang, and she stepped aside to answer it. When she came back, her eyes were wide. That was a reporter from National Business Today, she said. They want to do a story about you and the farm. They say it's not just about what happened yesterday. They're interested in how you built such a successful business as a black farmer. Marcus sat down at the table. He had spent his life working hard and staying out of trouble. He never looked for attention or wanted to be in the spotlight. But now, suddenly, everyone was watching him. What are you going to do, Dad? Lisa asked. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he looked up at all the faces watching him. I'm going to do what I've always done, he said finally. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to buy the jet my business needs. And if people want to hear my story, maybe it's time I told it. Sam nodded with respect. If anyone has a story worth telling, it's you, boss. What Marcus didn't know was that the biggest surprise was still to come. His stand against racism at Elite Aviation was about to change more than just his own life. 2 days later, Marcus drove to Continental Aviation. This time, he brought Sam with him along with Lisa. After all the attention, he wanted trusted people by his side. When they pulled up to Continental's building, Marcus was surprised to see Carlos Dias himself waiting outside. Next to him stood a tall man who looked familiar. That's Mike Taylor, Lisa whispered, the pilot from Elite. Carlos stepped forward with a warm smile and shook Marcus's hand. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming. I'm Carlos Dias. We spoke on the phone. Good to meet you in person, Marcus said. Carlos turned to Mike. I believe you two have met. Mike has joined our team as of yesterday. Mike shook Marcus's hand. Good to see you again, sir. Marcus was surprised but pleased. Congratulations on the new job, Mike. Let's go inside, Carlos said. I have something special to show you. Inside the building, the difference from Elite Aviation was clear right away. The staff was diverse, men and women of different races and ages. They all greeted Marcus with respect, no fake smiles or surprised looks. Carlos led them to his office, a simple room with pictures of planes on the walls. One photo showed a younger Carlos standing next to a small crop duster plane. You were a crop duster pilot? Marcus asked, pointing to the picture. Carlos smiled. That's how I started. I was just a farm boy from Mexico who loved planes. I came to this country with nothing but a dream to fly. He looked at Marcus with understanding. So I know something about building a business from the ground up. And I know what it's like when people don't think you belong. For the first time in days, Marcus felt himself truly relax. Carlos was not just trying to get his business because of the viral video. He truly understood. Now, Carlos continued, about the jet you're looking for. We have a Citation CG4, similar to the one you saw at Elite. But I want to show you something else first. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Maria, can you send John in? A moment later, a middle-aged black man in a sharp business suit entered the office. Marcus, this is John Williams, our chief financial officer and one of my business partners. John stepped forward with a genuine smile. Mr. Johnson, it's an honor. I've followed your farm's growth for years. What you've built is impressive. Marcus was surprised. You know about my farm? John nodded. Of course. You're one of the biggest success stories in the agricultural industry. I used to work in agricultural banking. Your name would come up as an example of excellence. Carlos watched this exchange with a smile. John had an idea I think you'll be interested in. John, tell them. John sat down across from Marcus. After seeing what happened at Elite, I thought about my own experiences facing similar treatment. Then I had an idea. What if we created a special program to help minority business owners learn about aircraft ownership, education, financing options, training, everything they need to make smart decisions? Marcus leaned forward, interested. Go on. We would need someone well-respected in the business community to help lead it, John continued. Someone who knows what it's like to build something from nothing. Someone like you, Mr. Johnson. Marcus was speechless. He had come to buy a jet and was being offered a chance to help others like him. Of course, we still want to sell you the perfect jet for your needs, Carlos added with a smile. But we also want to invite you to be part of something bigger. Lisa squeezed her father's arm, her eyes showing pride. This was no longer just about buying a jet. It was about changing an entire industry. After their meeting, Carlos and John took Marcus to see the Citation CG-4 jet. It was almost the same as the one at Elite Aviation, but Marcus felt different looking at it now. This wasn't just a business tool anymore. It was a symbol of something much bigger. Take your time, Carlos said. Look at everything. Ask any questions you have. While Marcus examined the jet, his phone rang. It was a number he didn't know. He almost didn't answer, but something told him he should. Hello, Mr. Johnson. This is Robert Hoffman from Elite Aviation. Marcus was surprised. Mr. Hoffman. I'll get right to the point, Hoffman said. His voice sounded tired. I want to apologize again for what happened at our company. But I also want to make you an offer. If you come back to us, I'll sell you the Citation at 10% below our cost. That's nearly $1 million in savings. Marcus looked at the beautiful jet in front of him, then at Carlos and John, who were talking with Lisa nearby. That's a generous offer, Mr. Hoffman, Marcus said. But I think I've found the right place to do business. Please, Mr. Johnson, Hoffman continued, his voice desperate now. Since that video went viral, our business is suffering. We've lost 5 major clients. People are canceling orders. I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus said, and he meant it. He never wanted anyone to lose their job or business. But maybe this is a chance for your company to make real changes. That's what I'm trying to do, Hoffman said. I've fired Peterson and Wright. I'm changing our hiring practices. I'm setting up training programs. But none of that matters if our business fails. Marcus thought for a moment. Mr. Hoffman, I appreciate your call. But I need to go now. I'm about to buy a jet. After hanging up, Marcus walked back to the others. He didn't mention the call. What do you think of the jet? Carlos asked. I'll take it, Marcus said with a smile. And I'd be honored to help with your program for minority business owners. John beamed. Excellent. We already have a few ideas for how to get started. They went back to Carlos' office to sign the papers. As they were finishing, Carlos' assistant came in with a tablet. Sir, you might want to see this, she said, handing Carlos the tablet. It just broke on the news. Carlos looked at the screen, then showed it to the others. It was a news story about Elite Aviation. The headline read, Aviation Company faces LAWCUIT from former employees, ALEGING racist veracities. The article said that 6 former employees, including Mike Taylor, had filed a lawsuit against Elite Aviation. They claimed the company had a pattern of discrimination against both customers and staff. I had no idea, Mike said, looking genuinely shocked. I didn't know the others were planning this. Marcus read the article carefully. One quote stood out. The recent viral video showing how a successful black business owner was treated is just the tip of the iceberg, said a former employee. This is bigger than I thought, Marcus said quietly. Carlos nodded. Sometimes it takes one person standing up to give others courage. Lisa put her hand on her father's shoulder. You did that, Dad. You stood up for yourself, and now others are finding their voice too. As they finished signing the papers for the jet, Marcus felt a mix of emotions. He was happy to finally have the jet his business needed. He was excited about helping with the new program. But he also felt the weight of responsibility. His simple act of standing up for himself had started something much larger. As they walked out to see his new jet, reporters were gathering outside. Word had spread that Marcus Johnson was there. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say. Outside Continental Aviation, at least 20 reporters waited with cameras and microphones. Marcus stopped at the door, not sure what to do. He had never been in front of news cameras before. "You don't have to talk to them," Carlos said quietly. "We can go out the back way." Marcus looked at the reporters, then at Lisa and Sam. "No," he said finally. "I think I should say something." As soon as Marcus stepped outside, the reporters moved toward him, all talking at once. A woman in a red jacket raised her hand higher than the others. "Mr. Johnson, Sarah Chen from National Business News. Can you tell us about what happened at Elite Aviation?" Marcus took a deep breath. "What happened to me at Elite Aviation is something that happens to Black Americans and other minorities every day. I was judged by how I look, not by who I am or what I've built." Another reporter called out, "Did you expect your story to go viral?" Marcus shook his head. "No, I didn't know anyone was recording that day. I was just trying to buy a jet for my farm business. But maybe it's good that people can see what many of us face." "Mr. Johnson," called a man with a gray beard, "have you just purchased a jet from Continental?" "Yes," Marcus answered. "I found respect here. I found people who looked at my business needs, not my skin color." Carlos stepped forward to stand beside Marcus. "Continental Aviation is proud to have Mr. Johnson as a customer. And we're even more proud to announce a new program we're creating together." The reporters looked interested. Carlos continued, "The Johnson Diaz Aviation Access Program will help minority business owners learn about aircraft ownership. Mr. Johnson has agreed to help lead this effort." Cameras flashed as reporters took pictures. One called out, "Mr. Johnson, what would you say to other Black business owners who face discrimination?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I would say, don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. I started with 50 acres and a dream. Now I have 3 farms, thousands of acres, and today, a jet. Stand your ground. Know your worth." Just then, a black SUV pulled up. A well-dressed woman stepped out and walked straight to the crowd. Everyone seemed to know who she was. The reporters turned their cameras to her. "That's Congresswoman Taylor," Lisa whispered to her father. "She's on the Commerce Committee." The Congresswoman shook Marcus's hand, making sure the cameras caught it. "Mr. Johnson, I've been following your story. What happened to you is exactly why we need stronger laws against discrimination in business. I'd like to invite you to speak at our hearing next month." Marcus was shocked. From buying a jet to speaking before Congress, it seemed unreal. "I would be honored," he said finally. As the questions continued, Mike Taylor approached Marcus quietly from the side. "Mr. Johnson, I received a call from some of my former colleagues at Elite. They told me there's more to the story." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "They found emails," Mike said in a low voice. "The management at Elite has a system where they flag certain customers who don't look the part and give them worse service. They think it keeps their wealthy white customers more comfortable." Marcus felt a chill. "They put this in writing?" Mike nodded. "Apparently. It's all part of the lawsuit now." As the press conference continued, Marcus realized this story was much bigger than him. What started as a simple trip to buy a jet had turned into something that might change how an entire industry operated. And it all happened because he refused to be treated as less than he was. 1 year later, Marcus stood on the runway next to his jet. The early morning sun made the blue stripes shine against the white body. On the side, in small but clear letters, were the words "Standing Tall," the name he had given his aircraft. "Ready for takeoff, Mr. Johnson?" asked Mike Taylor, now his full-time pilot. Mike had left Continental Aviation 6 months ago to work directly for Marcus. It had been a good move for both of them. Almost, Marcus replied, checking his watch. Lisa should be here any minute. In the years since the Elite Aviation incident, Marcus's life had changed in ways he never imagined. His testimony before Congress had been watched by millions. The Johnson Diaz Aviation Access Program had already helped 15 minority business owners buy their own aircraft, and his farm business had grown even more, with new contracts coming in from companies who admired his stand against discrimination. Elite Aviation had not been so lucky. After the lawsuit revealed their written policy of discriminating against customers, many clients left. The company eventually sold to a larger firm. Robert Hoffman was no longer in the aviation business. "Sorry I'm late," Lisa called as she hurried across the runway. She carried a leather briefcase and wore a business suit. Since the events of last year, she had taken on more responsibility in the family business. Today, she was coming along to help present their new farm-to-table program to restaurant owners in 3 states. "You're right on time," Marcus said with a smile. Sam called. "Everything's ready at the Eastern Farm for our visit." As they climbed aboard the jet, Marcus thought about how much had changed. The jet had made his business more efficient, just as he had planned. But it had also become a symbol of something much more important. Mike started the engines as Marcus and Lisa settled into their seats. The familiar hum filled the cabin. "Next week is the 1-year anniversary," Lisa said as she fastened her seatbelt. "The TV stations are calling again. They want interviews about what's changed since the video went viral." Marcus nodded. 1 year. Hard to believe. "Will you do the interviews?" Marcus looked out the window at his main farm. The fields stretched out in neat rows, green and healthy. Everything he had built from years of hard work. "Yes," he said finally. "I think it's important to keep telling the story. Not just my story, but the bigger one." As the jet taxied down the runway, Marcus's phone rang. It was John Williams from Continental Aviation. "Marcus, glad I caught you before takeoff. I have big news. Our program just got a $1 million grant from the Business Equality Foundation. We can expand to help twice as many people next year." "That's fantastic news, John," Marcus said, truly happy. "Let's meet next week to plan how to use it best." After hanging up, Marcus told Lisa the good news. She smiled and squeezed his hand. "Dad, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had just walked away that day at Elite? If you hadn't stood your ground?" Marcus thought about it as the jet lifted off the ground. Below them, his farm grew smaller, the fields looking like a patchwork quilt. "I couldn't have walked away," he said simply. "That's not who I am." The jet climbed higher into the blue sky. From up here, Marcus could see for miles in every direction. The view reminded him of how far he had come and how much more there was still to do. What started as a humiliating experience had led to real change. By simply refusing to be treated as less than he was, Marcus Johnson had started something important, and he was just getting started. As the jet leveled off and flew toward the horizon, Marcus knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter.